Some of the work that I'm doing with women now, I'm working with young women in universities, in colleges, trying to help them to be a woman in construction, not trying to be a man in construction, because I've tried to be a man and we just can't do it. What companies don't understand is the differences of being a woman in this industry. There's a lot of people that have views and they have ways of doing things that are actually derogatory or offensive. Sexism in the industry, a lot of it is not intentional. There's a lot of people that are sexist within the industry and they don't realise it. It's much, much better than 20 or 25 years ago. But it's not enough.
Welcome to Taking the Con Out of Construction, the straight-talking show that's changing the industry, one episode at a time. Small mistakes can cost big money, and even more in time. But a small investment in listening to this episode could help you avoid disputes, delays, and costly pitfalls, while giving you the know-how to stop problems before they start. Let's turn complexity into clarity, and take the con out of construction.
Welcome back to Taking the Con Out of Construction. Titles and job descriptions tell one story, but real influence comes from decision-making, lived experience on site, and the confidence to act under pressure, especially when we're talking about women in construction. Michelle, people often focus on titles or roles, but the real conversation is about women in construction and the value they bring beyond the job description. How do you see this playing out in a changing industry? And in your opinion, what is really preventing organisations from fully recognising, supporting and leveraging the leadership potential of women across construction?
I've been in the industry for a very, very long time. And I'm pretty sure last week's podcast, we covered the fact that my career started with a really positive feminine role model. My journey's been quite different. And it's only been in recent years that I've been aware of how different my journey was. And don't get me wrong, I'm more aware when somebody's being difficult just because I'm female, because when you've been doing something for over 20 years, it's pretty obvious. And I remember back in the early days, people just being difficult and it didn't matter what I did. There was a problem and they were just arsy and difficult and would ignore me. And eventually I realised it's because I was female. And you do still get that on site. Not that I'm on site as much as I used to be. I used to be on site every single day. And my daughter used to call me Bob the Builder, which I hated. She could have at least called me Wendy. But I've spent a lot of time on site. And what I've realised is the deeper I go, the more conversations I have, the more companies I work with, the more mentoring work I do. I realise what a benefit it is being female in construction, especially to QSs. And I've worked with some very incredible men QSs, with them, against them, on the other side of whatever contract I'm on, whether that be me as a client, them as a contractor, me as a contractor, them as a client, me as a main contractor or a subcontractor, whatever it may be. And there's various different situations that I've been in. There's some very incredible QSs that I've been influenced by over the years, and really bad ones too. But when it comes to women, in my experience, and to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with other women in construction, especially not other QSs, because there's just not enough of us. Many architects, engineers, even on site, decorators, plumbers, electricians, like I've seen a lot, but QSs, I've not had that many. But I have been told on numerous occasions, and I've mentioned this before, how many business leaders will only employ female QSs if they can get away with it. And there are one or two things. There's a different kind of strength that comes from a woman. It's not the fact that one is necessarily better than the other. It's the fact that we're different. I find a lot of women in general, and this is very generalized in my experience, are able to zone into the detail when necessary. Some get stuck in the detail. I've worked with female QSs that have spent 45 minutes discussing a variation that was 200 quid. The cost of us both sitting in that meeting discussing that was way more than the variation in the first place. It was a waste of time and money. I have seen that, people that go way too far into the detail. I am able to go into the detail when I need to, but I'm also allowed to do an overview at the same time. Females in general are better at managing multiple things. What people don't understand is the role of a woman in general, and then put that into a man's world. So before my daughter was born, I would quite regularly be in the office at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Quite often I worked in the city on the outskirts. I lived in Essex at the time. I used to drive in, and the A13 was not a fun road in the morning or in the evening. So I often used to go in really early, or sometimes I go in a little bit later, and I'd say later leave at 6:30, 7 to miss the traffic on the way home. But when I became a mother, I didn't have that luxury because I had to drop my daughter off when the childminder was open and I had to pick her up before the childminder closed. So a lot of people think when they're employing women, oh, there's going to be issues with the kids. Actually, look at it differently. That woman has to make sure that her job is done before she leaves. 4 o'clock has always been my power hour where I just go into this serious hyper-focus mode and I can get more done in that hour than I could for the rest of the day. And that's when my to-do list really gets hit because all of a sudden I'm like, it's 4 o'clock. I've got to leave in an hour or an hour and a half, whatever it may be. I've got to go. I've got to get this done. It's got to get done now. When I used to work from home, my husband would walk through the door and he'd want to have a chit chat. And I'm like, this is my power hour. And then my daughter would turn up and this is my time to catch up. Got off, leave me alone. But because of that, because we are restricted to what hours we have to work, we are much more intense in what we're doing and we don't dilly-dally about, and we're actually more focused and more driven and more motivated because we've got to get stuff done. Now, anyone that has got any commercial experience or QS experience knows that it's not quite as simple as that. And if things haven't been set up correctly, so for example, you've got 4 projects and they all need to have their payment certificates done at the end of the month, it's horrific. It's painful. If you don't get those payment certificates out, you're liable legally. And it's something that's always been very important to me. I'd have to get that stuff done. Now, on the rare occasion that I couldn't, I would then come home, do the whole mum thing, dinner, bath, bed, whatever it may be. And then once my daughter's in bed, I'd open up my laptop and I'd start working. That's not what I wanted to do, but sometimes I had to do that. And that was on a rare occasion because obviously that's not sustainable long term, especially with QSs. The job's not done until it's done. And I've had this argument with my husband on numerous occasions. My job doesn't finish because it's 5 o'clock. I might leave the office at 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Doesn't necessarily mean my job is done. And I've had to work weekends on numerous occasions, late nights. I've been up till 3 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes because a deadline or project had to be in or a contract or one of the kids has been sick, doesn't change the fact that I've got commitments and deadlines. And yes, sometimes you'll have a situation where you've got to be home, but that can happen to men too. And in fact, my husband looks after the kids now. He's the one that takes them to school every day. I will take them to school from time to time. I pick them up from time to time. When you've got children and responsibilities, it just adds that additional pressure. And there is no boss on earth can give you the pressure that your children do. Not all women in construction are mothers either, but I do think that's different. And one of the reasons that my husband is looking after the kids more now is to give me that freedom to be in the rooms where I need to be, to get in the breakfast meeting if I want to go to the breakfast meeting. Going up to Manchester this week, I go up to Manchester or Liverpool or the north of the country fairly regularly. Now I can do that. Yes, I can be there. I don't have to worry about organising the kids. And that's quite a luxury. But a lot of men in construction, in all industries, but I'm just talking about construction, don't understand that. By 9 o'clock in the morning, I could have had a number of negotiations and nobody negotiates harder than a toddler. And I've had 2 of them. I've had a child that I've had to negotiate with in the morning for 20 years. It's a long time. And construction does not wait until 9 o'clock. And there are times that I've used breakfast club. I've had friends take my daughter to school because there have been many times I just got out of the shower and there's a phone call and it's 7:15 because all hell was broken loose because the delivery hasn't turned up or they've had something flooded or a million and one things that can go wrong at 7 o'clock in the morning. And there's nowhere open to drop your kids off at 7 o'clock in the morning. There's additional pressure there. And that doesn't mean that anyone's going to break. It just means we're better at managing chaos. I just don't think, not all men, and there's a whole thing out there in social media that not all men. No, you're right. Not all men are like that. But once you explain it to them, that makes sense. Didn't think of it like that. And it's not the fact that they don't think, and it's not the fact they don't understand. It's just the fact that until somebody shows you something or explains something to you, you just won't see it. Why would you? There's times that anyone listening to this could explain something to me that I wasn't aware of. Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. We don't know at all. There is a two-sided street of why there are not so many women in construction. One of them is the fact that I don't think women are encouraged to join construction industries because most women that I've met in the industry have come into the industry because their dad's been in the industry. And that's why a lot of men are in the industry too, because their dad came into the industry. This doesn't count with architects or interior designers because they're artistic. They've got a flair. They've got an artistic part of it. You can't be an architect or an interior designer unless you've got that experience, that vision, that ability to put different colors and textures together in different shapes and create something beautiful. I don't understand how it works. I'm terrible at drawing and I'm not great at taking a blank canvas and making something beautiful. Give me something to work with, and yeah, I can turn it into something. That's where the alchemy comes from. Construction alchemy is about, give me something to work with and I can make it better than what you give me. It's very common to have architects and interior designers that are female. But on the other side, on the on-site delivery, should we say, so project management, QSs, engineers, there's quite a few female engineers, but people that are actually on-site in their PPE in construction, there are not many. And even in management, because construction is definitely a place where you have to work your way up from the ground up. I don't know many people that have just walked into a directorship, unless, of course, their parents have retired and handed the business over. Yes, they do. But generally, those kids have worked in that business in school holidays or after school, or they've left school and started working in the business. And yes, they might have not worked as hard to get to higher management levels, but they've had to work at some point because that's just the way the industry is. It's very old-fashioned. It's full of old-fashioned values. People are changing it, and there's a lot of con artists hence taking the con out of construction. There's still lots of people that believe in handshakes, which we can't do anymore just because not everybody in the industry is legit. Not everybody in the industry is ethical. There's a lot of people that aren't. And I suppose it's because you can get into the construction industry and build a career, build a business without having GCSEs, for example, O-levels, qualifications. I do have a degree in quantity surveying, and it shocks me how many people are shocked by that. They say, oh, what have you got a degree in? Oh, I've got a degree in arts and social studies, and they're a bank manager. And actually, it makes perfect sense. A lot of the time, the fact that you've got a degree is the fact that you can just stick to something. Not necessarily what I learned in university. Yes, I use some of it, but a lot of it I don't. And it was a basic understanding. Didn't really understand what eaves were until I got on site. It took me ages to understand what gable ends were. And I just didn't get it in university, and then found somebody that didn't make me feel stupid when I was much younger and said, can you please explain gable ends? I fully understand it now and have done for about 20 years, but it took me a while to get my head around it in university. When it comes to surveying, I believe females are better at handling the chaos. Being a quantity surveyor is chaotic. Being a project manager is chaotic because construction just doesn't go the way it's supposed to. Things don't turn up on time. Delays happen. There's too many moving parts, and women are very good at handling moving parts. Men are much more focused. And if you just go back down to basic biology or back to the caveman days, women are all about nesting and nurturing and looking after kids, which don't do what they're supposed to do. So we are constantly prepped for things to change, and men go out and hunt. And that's the basics of where we came from. And we still have those primal instincts within us and within women, whether you're a parent, a mother or not, you have that instinct inside you to be nurturing and organizing. And that makes us better managers and better leaders. But more importantly, over the last 25 years, I've been a bit of an agony aunt. And I've sat there and had conversations with men because there is still that toxic masculinity in the industry, and there is that banter. And don't get me wrong, a lot of them love the banter. They love taking the mick and winding each other up. But I love the way that my husband responds to his friends that are struggling. I remember when we first got together, one of his friends was going through some dark times and suffering from mental health myself. I know what it's like to be dealing with demons. One of my friends calls it the black dog. I know what it's like when the black dog is around, which is obviously another name for depression. And I was really worried about him, and he was in a really bad place. So I would check in on him, and I've done it for a few people over the years. And because I've spent my entire life working in construction, I can talk to men, and men can talk to me. I've always been one of the lads. Even before I went into construction, I was one of the lads. I hated being in an all-girls school. It really didn't suit me because I've always been one of the lads. And it's ironic how my daughter's always been like that too. So I've always been able to communicate with them, which means that they can communicate with me, but also they open up. And it might be they've got a health concern, or there might be a bit of an issue with somebody on site, or they might be worried about their kids, or they might be having an issue with their girlfriend, or their parents might be sick and they might want to talk to somebody. And the amount of times I've had these heartfelt conversations with people, it normally means I end up being late. But men do open up to women on site more than they would another man. We all know there's a problem with suicide with men in construction. It's rife. And men having issues with depression. There's so many charities out there, and there's so many people doing so much really important work trying to get men to talk. And that's important. But I do think one of the solutions to that is having more women on site, because men will talk to women very differently to how they talk to men. There's a lot of egos, and you've got big heads and egos and personalities batting against each other, and it's a power struggle. And that could be client, contractor, could be two directors and a contractor. Project managers and QSs have a tendency to battle each other because one's about delivery, one's about price, and you can't always deliver on time for the right price, and so on and so forth. And one affects the other. There's so many different types of people that might bash heads on a site. When you put a woman in the mix of that, the negotiation changes, the energy changes, and there's not that many different archetypes in the industry. There really isn't. There is a different way of doing things, and women bring a different skill set. It's not better or worse, it's different. They complement each other. And I've worked with some incredible project managers, incredible, and we've worked as a team. I remember working for a company, and every morning I'd be like, PMA, positive mental attitude. The amount of times I'm like, it doesn't matter, whatever's gone on, PMA, we've got this, PMA, PMA, PMA. And then someone gets a bit down and dumps, hey, PMA. And they'll be like, you and your PMA. But it's just trying to keep people motivated. But also it's that nurture side of things, because there isn't much nurturing going on in the construction industry and on sites. And sometimes it's tough. The shit hits the fan regularly and people are under pressure. It's not all easy. Some sites are amazing, got incredible facilities, others don't. It's cold, it's muddy, it's dirty, it's messy. Okay, men are more comfortable in those environments, not all of them. I'm not particularly comfortable in those environments. That's just what you had to do. Programs that I'm writing for women in construction, I've been mentoring women in construction for a while. I've been mentoring women my entire life, including my own mother. It just comes naturally to me, and the results I'm getting with these women are just insane. But it needs to be bigger than that. There's two things that I'm highly focused on changing. One is getting businesses and contractors, subcontractors to look at their commercial protection, get people in early, look at things before the liquidators are on the doorstep, or before things have gone totally awry, before they've got CCJs and winding up orders. Have a look at it before it doesn't feel right. Just double check. Very simple, very easy, just to get that, yeah, everything's fine. Because there will always be things that are slightly not quite right, or there will be a few risks, but make sure you've got your risk profile done properly. Make sure you know where you're at, especially when it's a bigger building, new client, new product. Complexities are always changing. No project is ever the same. You could have two projects on the same road. They wouldn't be exactly the same. Just because you're good at bringing the work in doesn't mean you're good at running a business. There's far too many aspects of a business for somebody to be good at all of it. It's impossible. The second thing is trying to get more women, but not just getting the women in, keeping them in. So what I'm doing with Construction Alchemy, because I've realized that there's a massive gap in the market. There's lots of companies out there supporting women. They come from a HR perspective. They don't understand what it's like to walk around a site trying to find the toilet key. Then once you finally find the key, you've got to clamber over all the stuff in there to try and get anywhere near the toilet. So then you do your thing and whatever you want to do, wash your hands. And then there's never, or haven't been in my experience, very rarely are there sanitary bins in a female toilet on a site. I don't know why, they just don't. Then you've got to walk around, and guaranteed you come out the toilet, and the last thing you want to do is anybody on site see anything to do with menstrual products. Everyone freaks like it was the plague in a wrapper. But unless you explain these things, I just think girls are being funny. But more importantly, there's no camaraderie. You're always different. In every single room you go in, you're always different. Now, I'm one of the lads and all the rest of it, but I'm not a lad. And some of my past experiences and some of the work that I'm doing with women now, and working with young women in universities, in colleges that are coming in the industry, trying to help them to be in their own power, to be a woman in construction, not trying to be a man in construction. Because I've tried to be a man and we just can't do it. We cannot be men like men can, because we aren't men. We can be women in construction. And actually, a lot of people don't understand how to be a woman in construction or why to be a woman in construction. And they're one of two things. They're either exceptional, or sometimes they are over difficult. Some women go on power trips and it's not helpful. Some women are so downtrodden or nervous or have fought too hard or scared or many other emotions. And because of that, rather than accept that and deal with that, they create this big hard shell that I'm untouchable. And sometimes they come across very differently, very harsh, very aggressive. I've been quite aggressive over the years, not so much now. But what companies don't understand is the differences of being a woman in this industry. For example, working on site late. Years ago, before my sons were born, my daughter would be at her dad's on a Wednesday. Those Wednesday nights, guaranteed I'd be catching up, because whenever I walked into a site, there's Michelle, 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 Michelle. So when I'm on site, guaranteed I would get pulled from pillar to post of people needing stuff done. So I'd be on site late. Being on site late in the dark, it's a scary place to be when you're female. There may be a security guard, but security guards don't have to have DBS checks. A lot of people on site don't have to have DBS checks. As a QS, I'm often having to tell people that their work isn't good enough, or they're not getting paid, or have to have uncomfortable conversations with them because they haven't delivered what they're supposed to be delivering, making sure that they're not hiding somewhere ready to get me or jump out of me if I'm there by myself. These are the things that men just don't think about. It's not a detriment to men. It's not slagging them off. It's not putting them down. They don't have to experience that. Sometimes I get a bit agitated by it because I have had really bad experiences, and trying to get men to understand that, no, it's not all men are like that. But what women don't know is which are which. Rapists don't look a certain way. I remember my younger stepsister saying, he doesn't look like a rapist. What does a rapist look like? They don't walk around with t-shirts saying, I'm a rapist. They look like every other man that you've met. What do people that physically hurt women look like? They look like everyday people. No, it's not all men, but the difference is all women are fearful of men. Not all men, but they are fearful of men, and they don't know when you're going to have that situation and you're going to be in that situation. But how many women walk down a dark road with the keys in between their fingers? Most women I know. Text me when you get home. Do men do that? No, they don't. When my neighbours leave my house, we jokingly go, text me when you get home. And I will stand there and watch my female friend. She's 4 doors down, but still we watch each other. And there are some situations that the men will walk the women home and they're literally 4 or 5 doors away. But we still have that fear because there's a public pathway outside our house. Being on site as a woman is difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to tell whether or not there's a problem because you're female. It's not always obvious. It might be the sly comments. It might be the not responding to emails. It might be cutting evaluation. It might making things more difficult. It might be changing meetings to a time that they know you can't do. For example, some women that need to leave at 4 o'clock on a Tuesday because they've got to pick their kids up on that particular day. And it might be the fact that this particular man keeps booking a meeting on that day. And they do it. They will do it. There are men in the industry that will do that just to be difficult. God, it's much, much better than 20 or 25 years ago. But it's not enough. What I've never found in the industry is anyone that has offered support to deal with that, or even educated people on how to deal with that. So what I'm doing with my Built to Lead program and all of my programs with Construction Alchemy, I'm going into bigger companies and saying, you've got a policy that is attracting women and you want to bring more women into the industry, but actually once a woman's in your organization, how is she then supported? And one of the things that men don't understand as well as us women do is women can be one of 2 things. When women come together, it's something quite magical and powerful, which does intimidate some men, I get that. But when women are pulling apart, there's nothing that can tear you down quicker, faster, and harsher than another woman. A man cannot destroy a woman as much as a woman can. When you're bringing those women together, one, to support one another will be empowering. It's motivating. It makes them feel safe. But also, when they come together, they can call out the bullshit. Because there are women out there that aren't acting in the right way and are being more difficult and are making life more complicated than it needs to be. And the construction industry really struggle to deal with those type of women because they're just generally still quite old-fashioned. People ask me, can I hold the door open for you? Yes, you can. Of course you can. Some women don't like that. I don't see the point in having a go at someone for being chivalrous. I get why some women don't want to be like that, but I don't see the difference in trying to be equal, that we are treated equal and we're treated the same because we're different. People will get angry about that, I'm sure. But I'm a woman in construction, which means I'm different from a man in construction. But I use that differences to my advantage because I've got a different skill set. And when you're working as a team, it's okay, fine, you do this, I do that. You delegate. You go with skill sets. And sometimes the skill set is the fact that I'm female. And I use that to my advantage. You can build much stronger relationships when you've got more women around because sometimes you get too many egos and it doesn't necessarily work. What I'm looking at in businesses now is, what's your policy? And actually, is that policy implemented? Because I've noticed over the years with the work I've done with H Squared, implementing a policy or a system is a different skill set to writing one in the first place. I can write them and I can implement them because I get people to understand the bigger picture. Sexism in the industry, it's a whole different conversation. A lot of it is not intentional. There's a lot of people that are sexist within the industry and they don't realize it. There's a lot of people that have views and they have ways of doing things that are actually derogatory or offensive, but they just aren't aware of it. It's not a personality trait, it's a lack of education because it's always been done that way. And actually, that's not acceptable behavior because you just shouldn't act like that. And women shouldn't have to sit there and be quiet and be treated differently. The amount of time that I have been conscious about what I'm going to wear to work because I don't want to be seen as too flirty or provocative. I should be able to wear whatever I want to wear to go to work. I'm not going to be wearing high heels on site. The amount of women that turn up to a site in high heels shocks me. It's just not safe. You're a start. And why would you want to ruin a decent pair of heels? Because construction sites, unless they're being handed over, are not clean, safe places. So it's been jeans and trainers and hoodies, but I didn't have to wear the most unattractive thing. Didn't have to constantly have my hair sweep up. I didn't have to not wear makeup just because I didn't want to be seen as attractive. These are the things that men don't understand. You have to go through on a daily basis. What am I wearing? Who am I meeting? How am I going to be judged? And when you're going around to various sites trying to figure out what you can wear, because it's not like you're going to get changed halfway through, what you can wear that you're going to be respected and welcomed in each one of the points of where you're going in the day. You've got to be on site. You've got to be in a new client meeting. You maybe got a meeting with solicitors. Nobody judges what a man's wearing, but they do judge what women's wearing. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but they do. And understanding that and supporting and just having somebody say, this is okay, or this is what I do. So there's other things that I do within businesses. It might be a quarterly meetup or it's a quarterly Zoom, but having that space where I encourage other women to come, and if someone comes with an issue, they'll often ask me the question and I will give it to the room. Or sometimes, depending on the circumstances or how new the group are, sometimes I will answer that or ask different questions and offer that support, give suggestions. I never tell people exactly what to do. I just give them suggestions and maybe come up with ways around what they're trying to do. Back to the serenity prayer, which I talk about a lot. Sometimes we just have to have that ability to change what we can, accept what we can't, and have the knowledge to know the difference. There are some people that you can educate and say, this isn't how I want to be treated, or how I want to be spoken to, or how I want to be addressed, or I don't feel comfortable about this, or I don't want to be staying in a site at 4:30 in the winter and it's pitch black. I don't want to be walking to my car that is miles away. The amount of times on site, there's been 1 or 2 car parking spaces. Generally, one of them is for the project manager and the other is either for directors or for me. A lot of the time it's been for me. It's not all been doom and gloom. I wouldn't have stayed in the industry this long. A lot of the time I've been protected by men and I've actually felt really safe on site when it's a full site. When I'm on my own, God no, any noise, movement can scare the absolute crap out of me. It's pitch black, it's 7 o'clock at night. Shit, I'm on my own in construction site. Does anybody even know I'm here? There's normally security guards on big sites. It's the walking to the car. I'm walking from the car. That's the times when it's dark, especially in the winter here. I've been on site at 6:30 in the morning. I've had to walk in the dark. It's times I've walked into site on pitch black and I've walked out of site. It's been pitch black. It's understanding that this is at the risk that women have. Men just don't think about them because they don't need to. Networking, I've mentioned this in other podcasts, was a scary place for me. When I was in my early 20s and I looked much younger, and even in my early 30s when I still looked like I was in my early 20s, going to networking events in the evening or even day events where alcohol was involved, the amount of times I've been in situations where I've been compromised because I've been friendly and a man's had a couple of drinks and thought something different and got over touchy-feely with me, which is not on. I've had situations where, and it really annoys me when subcontractors do it, when they're a really good subcontractor, where I'm getting messaged at 3 o'clock in the morning, which is totally inappropriate, just because I've been nice to them or I've supported them or I've helped them, but they're just not used to having women that aren't their immediate relatives, wives or girlfriends, giving them that kind of attention because they don't deal with women a lot because there are not enough women in construction. And then all of a sudden they're declaring their undying love or I would do anything for you. And I get really annoyed because then they get all funny in the morning and then the relationship's tarnished and I've lost a decent subby just because they haven't had much experience of dealing with women. I'm not saying that's bad about the men and it's not derogatory to those men at all. Those men were decent people that just got confused. But if there were more women in the industry, that just wouldn't happen because it would be the norm. I don't speak to women that work in other industries that suddenly have these situations because in construction it's so rare to have that relationship maybe with a woman in your day job, because if you've grown up in the industry and you've worked in the industry all your life, you won't have had much interaction with women unless they've been in the accounts department, receptionist team, or maybe the odd architect or engineer. There are many men that have probably rarely worked with women on site. The industry needs to be brought into 2026. There's a lot of companies still operating in the 90s, early 2000s. Obviously, not all of them. A lot of them are using AI and software and other incredible things. There's a lot of people using modern methods of construction, and there's lots coming on with different products and services and insulation and all these other things that are moving with the industry. Of course they are, but the industry itself is very much back in the 90s. The attitudes, the culture, the people, even the way that we talk, it's very different to any other industry, and people just don't understand it. And the beauty of what I'm doing is the fact that I spent this time on site. The difference between me and anybody else is the fact that I know what it's like to be a female. I can relate to these women. I've been there. I've felt it. I know what it feels like for people to just be shitty with you and difficult with you because you're female. But I also know how to get around that. I also know how to switch the attitude. If a person can be changed with a change of perspective and some education and some support, then 100% I will do that. Many men have come to me going, I don't know what to do. Do I hold the door open for you? Do I offer to make you a cup of tea? Do I ignore you? Do I take the piss out of you? Do I swear? Do I not swear? Never allowed the C word, ever. Not around me, not having that. But I don't have a go at people for swearing. I never have done. Jesus, I swear a lot myself. But I wouldn't allow the C bomb. And there's certain other things. And you would see me on site and still see me. I'll go, shaking my finger. No, not having that. And they'll laugh. Oh, okay. Or call me mum or call me madam. Or we have a laugh and joke and a bit of banter. But then on the other hand, I will keep quiet at certain points and I will drop a one-liner or say something that they don't expect. And they're like, oh my God, we have a good old laugh. I've always delivered what I've said, and I've always been authentic, and I've just been me. And I've used being female to my advantage. I've probably got men to bend over backwards for me at times. I've probably got people to help me out that they might not have helped out because I've asked nicely. But generally, these are nice people. And the construction industry is full of nice people. I know the title of the podcast is Taking the Con Out of Construction, but that's not the majority. There are building sites all over this country that are full of decent, genuine people, generations after generations of all the various trades that are at risk. But it's the same with everything. There's always people there to ruin it. I believe that bringing more women into construction, they are incredible managers. They're very good at managing men, construction, chaos, foresight, risk analysis, risk aversion, toddlers, especially when you've got two of them. The amount of times that I've had to make a decision who's less likely to die and chase the other one. But these are the kind of things that we are built for physically, whether you're a parent or not. These are the kind of things that your brains are built for. To look at risks, see things coming, to look ahead. Some of the most incredible project managers I've ever met are women. I'm great at project management and delivering and like, what we're going to do here and what if we do that? Let's make a decision here. How does this decision affect next week, the week after that? Right, okay, we're looking at this, but what about next week? What about next week? And men just aren't as good at looking at the bigger picture. Women, they're much more about preparation. But construction needs that drive. Construction needs that power. Construction needs that go, and that quick thinking and that sharpness and the buzz and the drive. And that's what men are great at. Women are great at it too, obviously. But you've got these two different sides, yin and yang or whatever you want to call it. I think the construction industry needs both. I'm not saying women are going to replace men. No, they've got their role, and actually men are incredible in construction. Compliance has gone through the roof. Men aren't as good as all that as what females are. It's just the way that we are built. The amount of compliance that's coming, and it's not going to stop. And AI and software and all these other things are a bit more technical. I'm the world's worst, but IKEA furniture, most women will look at the instructions. Men just get their drill out and start. I'm one or the other. I can do a bit of both depending what it is. That's just the different ways that we work. There's so many benefits to keeping women in the construction industry that are going to help the industry. And I'm not saying it needs to be 50-50. I don't know if it will ever be that. But at the moment, it's 20%, if that, of the industry is women. I don't even think it's 20%, especially not on site, maybe in other roles, but not on site. Australia, I do a lot of gender equality audits. I offer that service here. It's not something that people are picking up on because they're not aware of it, because it's not a legislation yet, but it's coming. And when it does come, it's going to hit people really hard. So I'm actively going out to companies and seeing how their gender equality is and asking them how they're supporting their women, looking at their policies, how are they actually implementing those policies, how are they getting them in, how are they helping keep the women they get. Otherwise, it just becomes expensive because recruitment is not cheap. Even if you've got internal recruitment, it's still not cheap because the cost to train these people up and then they go. If you can keep them and you create a network of women within your organisation that support each other the way that men do, you'll get as much out of the women as you do out of the men. So it's no different to what's already in place for men themselves. How many men go for a drink on a Friday night? Loads of companies I know, the whole lot of them go for a drink on a Friday night. Some companies I know, they don't do Christmas parties. They do a massive thing in the summer and have a whole event, and the whole business is shut down, and that's what they do to motivate their people. Men are great at coming together, having a laugh and a joke together and supporting each other. My brother still is in contact with lots of the boys that he went to school with. They often have a day out or a golf day or whatever it may be. Like, it's more common for boys to stick together than what girls do, because girls, hundreds of years ago, the woman had a husband and then she moved and that was that. And okay, she would still see her family, but that was her new life. Like, she was literally taken away, and sometimes to a different country or a different county. That was it. Her life stopped, whereas the men would remain connected and their lives don't change as much. Lots of men I know speak to umpteen people they went to school with still. Women aren't as good at that. We need to get women to be supporting each other more. And I know a lot of people in a lot of platforms, a lot of different industries are trying to do that. There will be some real magic, hence Construction Alchemy, real alchemy happening when women are brought together within the industry to support one another and to grow and to encourage one another, but also to call each other out when we need to. And I think it's just going to be better for the industry as a whole to have more women in it. But I also support the men in those businesses, because a lot of men don't know how to treat women anymore. They don't know what they can and can't say because they don't understand what the rules are. The rules for each woman differ, and it's trying to give them the encouragement to have conversations with women. But there's a lot of men that don't necessarily understand how to speak to women. And that's the norm, especially if they spend their entire life and their career and their dad is in the construction industry and they don't have sisters. It can be quite difficult and intimidating for men to speak to women. Not all men, I've said that all the way through. Built to Lead is a program that I have developed, and it's bespoke because not every company is the same. Not every project's the same, not every person's the same. But the basis around it is looking at company policies, looking at how they're implemented, making sure that the company's aware of what it's like to be on site. They've got female toilets, they've got female changing rooms, they've got sanitary bins in the toilets, for example, those kind of things. Make sure that women are safe and they are secure in sites, that there's safe parking. These are some of the systems that we can implement, no problem. It's about mentoring women. If a woman is being difficult in an industry, let's find out why she's being difficult, because guaranteed it's because she feels unsafe. And most men in construction industry want women in their industry to feel safe. They want to look after them, they just don't know how. It's also supporting men that are working with women that don't understand or are feeling uncomfortable, feeling unsafe, or worried about what they're going to say because they're going to end up in a tribunal. That's not what I want either. Men need to feel safe working with women. We all need to feel safe together, but we have different needs. So supporting them, whether it be workshops or mentoring, supporting women and encouraging women and empowering women to support one another. The way that I always work with all of the services that I offer, it's not about you have to work with me till the dawn of time. You work with me until you don't need me anymore. And that's when my job is done. Yes, I get involved in your business. Yes, I'm part of the furniture. Yes, I'm part of the team. And the amount of times a director of a business go, "You're freelance." Yeah, we don't act like it. I'm being employed. Doesn't matter. I'm here. I'm part of the team. But I'm part of that team until that team doesn't need me anymore. And I've even interviewed my replacement when I've been working for them on a fractional basis. The company's growing, they need to employ someone permanently. I've helped them employ that person to replace what I'm doing because the company's growing. That's what I'm about. It's not about you can't survive without me. I will make sure that you are trained, your team's been trained, everything's working. I will step back and still offer support and be in the outskirts of it. Then I just move on and move on to the next project. And that's what I've always done. The industry is changing. It took me a long time to realize the power of being female in the industry. Once I started acting in my feminine rather than my masculine, things changed, doors opened, life was a lot easier, and I was a lot more effective. I've been successful, and I'm blessed to be successful. I'm blessed to have the experiences I've had. I'm very blessed to my career start with lovely Sally at the very beginning, and I'm blessed with all the amazing companies I've worked with, the amazing consultants I've worked with, many of them men and some incredible women too. I want to use all those experiences to help others. And if I'm going to change my industry, which I will, and I am, then the two ways I'm going to do it is commercial protection and supporting all women. I'm not the type of person that just says, here, I support women. I put my money where my mouth is. I check in on people that need help. I sponsored events that are nothing to do with me or my industry just because I believed in what they were doing. And it was nothing to do with construction. It was about supporting other women. You'll often see me on LinkedIn supporting people I believe in and their posts and sharing and charities and connecting people, not because it's any benefit to me, but because it's benefit for them and what's right for them. That's the kind of thing that I do. I do support men too. I've done it for years and years and years. The majority of my clients are PhD men, but it's funny how majority and most of my clients with Construction Alchemy have been female. That's what I think the industry needs.
If we want a stronger, more sustainable industry, we have to stop asking whether women are ready and start asking whether our systems, cultures, and leadership mindsets are ready for them. As always, this is about raising standards, challenging outdated thinking, and creating an industry that works better for everyone involved. Thank you very much, Michelle.
You're very welcome.
If you found value in today's episode, hit subscribe so you never miss a new release, and share it with someone in the industry who needs to hear it. To learn more, access resources, or find out how Michelle Carr and Construction Alchemy can help you protect your projects, solve problems, and boost your profits, visit constructionalchemy.co.uk. Together, we can change the industry, one project, one company, and one episode at a time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are based on the personal experiences of Michelle Carr and her guests. They are for general information only and should not be relied upon as professional or legal advice. Always seek your own independent advice before making decisions. Neither Michelle Carr nor Construction Alchemy accepts liability for any loss, damage, or consequences arising from actions taken based on this podcast. Thank you for listening.